There's actually a real example there where it blurs out a cow's face. Well, this is actually going a bit far.
So your point is that cows don't deserve privacy.
Exactly. I think that we can sum up this whole meeting with that one sentence.
I'm Jen Capstraw, and welcome to Marketing with Friends. Today, we've got two of the biggest brains in the business to talk about data and what marketers can be doing to achieve more with it. Introduce yourselves, please. We'll start with you, Dr. Ada.
Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Dr. Ada Barlatt, and I work with email marketers to help them make the most out of their data, specifically identifying patterns and trends using advanced analytics techniques.
Yes, my name's Neil Yager. I'm Chief Scientist at Phriends, and so my background is in all things data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and how to make sense of data in general.
We'll start with you, Dr. Ada, to kick things off. Do you think marketers are getting all the value they can out of the data that they have?
To sum it up, I'd say not really, mostly because I believe that there are always opportunities for improvement. And as we have more access to data in our email marketing tools, there's always more opportunity to make more of everything that we're collecting.
Dr. Neil, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I have to say, as somebody who doesn't have a background in marketing, when I first came into this field, I was pretty impressed at how data focused everyone is. Everybody is measuring a lot of things, which is fantastic. If you don't measure it, you can't optimize it. The downside is we have a lot of it, and people aren't very good at sorting through huge, vast volumes of data. So that means we need tools. Computers are great at this. And so we're still kind of catching up, I believe, to the possibilities of what we can do with all of this information.
Why do you think that is, Ada?
Well, I think Neil made a great point in that there is so much data, and I completely agree. My background's not in marketing either, and so there is a lot of emphasis on how are things performing, looking at data and keeping spreadsheets. But I feel like there are more opportunities besides just reporting on what's happened in the past. And I think one of the reasons that there's more opportunity, or I see more opportunity, is that marketers may not be aware of all the amazing things that they can do with the data that they have.
Dr. Neil, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that raised a few interesting points. And one that I'd particularly like to pick up on is that you're right. I don't think when it comes to data, everything should be backwards looking. Yes, it's easy to kind of think we're going to compile this all into a bunch of reports and see how we did the last quarter. But the real power of the data is going to be more forward looking. Like what can we do with this to optimize and improve so that our next quarter is going to be even better?
Can you advise how they would get started?
The easy way to get started is to come up with a specific question. So instead of looking at your data like, I want to maximize all of this information that I've collected, more start with, I wonder what happened with this product last quarter. Can we look more into that? I wonder what this particular segment is doing. I wonder, so I almost every marketer I speak with has all sorts of questions about their audience because everyone's really interested in the people that they serve and the people on their lists. So to start with those questions, and then once you have your question, you can then go and identify the right data to answer that question and move forward from there. Clean up what you need to answer the questions that you have.
Yeah, I also agree. I don't want everyone to be overwhelmed by this. Not everyone needs to have a PhD or in statistics or to actually to enter this field. Really, we don't expect the end user to be doing the hard work. It's about picking the right tools to give you the most power over your data.
And those correct tools could include things like machine learning and AI, right? How could those be used?
Well, absolutely. That's what machine learning and AI are all about. So machine learning is about taking a bunch of data, raw data, and digging into it and seeing what insights and patterns and trends we can find, and then using those models to predict the future. So there is one sort of caveat with these techniques. They're very powerful, but we shouldn't overestimate their capabilities. What they are good at is being very, very good at a narrowly defined task. They can be much better at humans at a very specific thing, but once you ask them to step outside of that, they start to fall down. And this is a risk. So when we're deploying these systems, we have to be very careful about the deployment. So one example of this is, we've all seen Google Street View. For instance, one of the features in there is it blurs out people's faces. And every time we have a system, a computer vision system, which does something like this for privacy's sake, it's going to have associated with it a false positive rate. Sometimes it's going to blur out things that are actually not human faces. There's actually a real example there where it blurs out a cow's face. Well, this is actually going a bit far, and you can't really blame the system. It's trying to do what it was designed to do, and most of the time it works, but the key is sometimes it fails, and sometimes you need this human insight and oversight into the system. We don't want to deploy these things into the world with full autonomy.
So your point is that cows don't deserve privacy.
Exactly. I think we can sum up this whole meeting with that one sentence.
Really appreciate Neil's points, especially about how these systems are designed to do one narrow thing really well, and that can be of great benefit to people because they can process more information, or create information from data in ways that our brains can't process. One of the things I like to think about these systems, analytics and AI and machine learning in general, I take an analogy from Sesame Street, actually. I don't know about all of you, but I was a avid Sesame Street watcher as a child. And one of my favorite segments was the Three of These Things Belong Together segment, where 4 items popped on the screen and you needed to identify which one didn't belong. And I feel like, to make a gross simplification, but if people think about these tools as looking for patterns in the similar way that you did as a young person on Sesame Street, but at scale, that can help people understand and identify what these tools are doing, as well as be able to intervene and add their own perspective to examples like Neil's, where does the cow need privacy or not? So they're starting us off on that process by looking for patterns in a very similar way that you've been looking for patterns in your life, your whole life.
And now I've got that Sesame Street song stuck in my head.
I love it. I love it.
I guess which kid is... yeah. That's how I'm going to spend the rest of my week. Dr. Ada, what does it look like when data is being used correctly?
This is a great question. And I think the first part is to start with the question. So when you use the data to answer your question, that's step number 1. And then the other examples that I've seen in the work that I do are people being able to do really interesting things. By interesting things, I mean make decisions, business decisions based on the data. So perhaps they are identifying a customer segment that they were not serving, but it tends to actually purchase at a higher rate than other customer segments. Or they're identifying really engaged customer segments and coming up with new products or services to offer them to increase the lifetime value of that segment. So the big picture is answering the questions that you have, as well as using those answers to make sound business decisions.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Neil, Dr. Ada, for sharing your genius with us today, and we hope to see everyone next time on Marketing with Friends. And I've been binge watching The 100 on Netflix, and I don't know, I'm a little scared that AI is going to launch nuclear attacks and eliminate humans altogether. In the realm of possibilities?
I'm concerned about this as well, but if that happens, it's because we've given them too much autonomy with not enough human oversight. It's not because they've developed consciousness and wanted to exterminate the human race.
Quit worrying. Everything is fine.